Good morning, friends. Welcome to another daily dose from your Covid Chaplain down here in Australia. G'day. And I trust that things are working out pretty well for you for Christmas coming up in a couple of days' time. I know that COVID has created a lot of upheaval. Right here in Australia, we found that the border between Victoria and New South Wales has been closing up because of supposed COVID cases north of where I am. And so some people's plans have been completely disrupted. They can't get and do what they were planning to do for Christmas. Some friends of mine had a big plan for a family gathering just this last weekend, just people here in Melbourne. And they were looking forward to that. But when somebody developed a bit of a cold, everybody panicked and the whole thing was called off and bumped off to sometime in January. So there's a lot of upheaval and uncertainty going on around people's lives. I trust that you are able to get on and catch up with family and friends and be able to really enjoy this season. But if not, I want you to remember the thing that we've been working on for the last couple of days, that it's your life. And because it's your life, you get to choose how you're going to respond, how you're going to treat each circumstance that comes along. And by God's grace, by looking to Him and trusting Him, you can find that you can cruise through things that might otherwise have been difficult. And you've got the choice to do it because it's your life. Now, I know I used the example over the last couple of days of a plant that kind of decides to sprout up somewhere in an unlikely spot, in a car park or in a rockery or someplace where you wouldn't have put it and where its existence is going to be challenged just by the location where it happened to sprout. And yet it has that life principle. It will hang on tenaciously to some place where it's growing, where it shouldn't really be growing, but because it's alive, it thrives to whatever degree it can and survives in that situation. We too, of course, are in our own unique situations. Everybody's situation is different. And we have to live and survive, make the life that we have out of wherever we've been planted, and work out how to be able to make that work with God's grace. But I want to talk to you today about the issue of, because it's your life, there are some things that cannot be put upon you. You mightn't realize this, especially if you're a younger person, but in years gone by, a person was given great opportunity, great liberty to object to something based on their conscience. In wartime, if a person was called up to go into the army, they could be a conscientious objector. Now that name's been bandied around and some people may not understand what's really going on. But some people believed that because God said thou shalt not kill in one of the 10 Commandments, where I believe God was referring to murder, taking someone's life wrongly, they took that to mean you shall not kill under any circumstances, including take a rifle or a gun into battle. And so when they were called up to go to battle, they said, no, I can't. For my conscience sake, for the sake of my conscience, I can't go and shoot somebody. Now, a general could say, well, I'm giving you the order to shoot and you're just going to have to do it. And you say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stand in front of somebody with more authority than you, sir, because I'm going to have to stand before God. And my eternal destiny, whether I spend time in heaven or hell, might depend on whether I take a rifle or not. And my conscience says, I can't and I shouldn't go out into battle and shoot people because I'd be breaking one of God's commandments. And so suddenly the stakes are really high. It's a matter of a person's eternal destiny, whether they pull the trigger and shoot somebody or whether they don't. And that's a matter of conscience. So a person who said, my conscience tells me I will go to hell if I follow your orders. Sir, you can't order me into hell. I have my own life. This is my life. Not only is this life mine, but where it goes in eternity is my responsibility. And sir, I understand your orders. I understand the need to be able to fight the enemy, but I'm not going to go to hell just because you've got some need that you need fulfilled. And the person objects, but they object because of conscience. And so they are a conscientious objector. They're objecting based on conscience, what their head or their heart tells them about a situation. Now, that takes the idea that it's your life into another dimension. We're not just talking about whether you like to eat pizza or whether you like to have a roast beef. We're not talking about your personal preferences. what you do and don't like to do, or what you would or would not like to do for the rest of your life. We're talking about your ownership of yourself, not just within the life circumstances, but before God, and accepting that responsibility. It's my life, and it's my eternal destiny that is at stake, because I have to take responsibility for what I choose and for what I do. When we come at it at that level, we can understand that taking hold of your life then becomes a matter of taking the hold of the whole of your life, not just the life that you have on earth, but the life that you will live after you've left this body and after you've left this planet and gone either into God's presence or into some eternal torment. And so we have this situation where accepting the responsibility for our life takes on this multiple dimension focus. It really does have significance for eternity, eons of time going on and on forever. So friends, as you think about where you are at right now, you have a life and it belongs to you. And other people around you might have expectations and demands they make of you, political or social, family requirements, obligations and responsibilities, maybe your employment and the responsibilities that throws upon you, the debts that you have and the responsibilities you have, whatever it may be, there are different things putting impositions upon you. But when it all comes down, at the bottom line, it's your life. And for conscience sakes, for your recognition that you stand before God and have to answer to Him, you need to take control and possession of your life. Now, I know there are people that are abused, and there are people that are put under great pressure. They are forced to commit crimes. There are people that are sold into the evil practices that they don't want to do, but someone who has some control over their life is forcing them to do that because of debt or obligation or just sheer brutal strength, forcing somebody to go and do what they don't want to do. And that's a really tragic situation. I don't know that you're necessarily going to be at that level of pressure, but you will have to accept that you are responsible for the decisions that you make, for conscience sake. And so today, I want you to think about your conscience. I want you to think about what your conscience troubles you over, and to remind yourself, it's your life. You get to make the decision about what actions you will take, what things you will do that would violate your conscience, your sense of responsibility before God. And as much as you're able, cry out to God and say, God, I need to know how to have wisdom to handle this situation. People have set me up, they've abused me, they've used me, they've put me in positions of compromise, and my conscience is grieved over that. And yet this is my life. I have to make a decision about how I stand before you. Other people in the family don't want me to be religious, for instance, and yet I want to have a life of worshiping you. Some people in my family want me to follow a particular other religion, but I want to put my faith in Jesus. And I don't want to end up going to hell because I've listened to them or listened to them and done what those other people demanded that I do. In conscience sake, I want to be able to stand before God and have God's blessings in my life. Friends, if you're in that kind of really tricky predicament, I pray that right now, the angel of the Lord will enter your world and will break open a way for you to be able to live with a clear and holy conscience before God, and not to be compromised and not to be denied the opportunity to be who you choose to be with your life in glory and honor to God. I break the curse of those enslavements. I break the curse of those things that want to take away from you your personal sovereignty and your ability to, for conscience sake, to be able to make the choices that you know and you believe God is asking of you. May God give you breakthrough in those situations. Friends, we'll call today for conscience sake. Okay? I want you to think about your conscience. I want you to think about the things that you are allowing yourself to do, that you've been taught to do, but you have always felt that maybe they were wrong. Listen to your conscience today and take a hold of your life today, because it's your life, for conscience sake. And as you think about that, as you process that today and let those thoughts rattle in the back of your mind, may God bless you.